If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Welcome to Skiba News Nation, bringing you unfiltered views, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Skiba, award-winning musician and son of Rob Skiba.
With the son of the legendary Rob Skiba, Jeremiah Skiba, what's up?
With my great and insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Graham. It's like I don't even want to wake up.
He's on a quest for truth.
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters.
Well,
Hey, Skiba News Nation family. Welcome to episode 101 of Skiba News Nation, your weekly source of the latest news, controversial topics, conspiracies, forgotten history, and so much more. I'm your host, Jeremiah Skiba, and I'd like to introduce my great and insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Graham. Welcome, Jake.
Hello. What a meta shot there, Opa. Coming in right at the top from the third person, perspective. Very cool.
Yeah, man. So, before we get into some current news, I heard that you visited a very special friend of ours.
I absolutely did. And just to explain first why I was visiting a very special friend of mine, if you'll just follow me for a moment, come right on over here, guys, and you can see that I received a very, very special delivery. Well, it was like a pickup, but anyways, I picked up my board game, so you can check it out here. We got the whole stack here of limited edition boxes. Look at all these games. They finally finished my board game, so I'm going to be sending these out to everybody very soon indeed. And so I'm, of course, very stoked about all the games coming in. As you can tell, hopefully this camera will follow me over here. So, yeah, man, I'm pretty stoked. That's why I was out there. Picked up all the games, so anybody who has ordered one of my board games, you're going to get it soon. So anyways, if you wanted to check out the website for that, that's tribethegame.net. And anyways, let's check out this short ad I made for our buddy JJ when I visited him. Check it out.
Finally here at a very special location. Skiba News Nation has had a long-time sponsor, and I'm happy to be here in person at JJ's CBD Hemp Shop. What's up, bro?
Hey, welcome to Family Ties Apothecary. This is my shop. Started a brick and mortar. I do everything myself and grow all the hemp that I make in my rub, and from start to finish, farm to bottle. And there's not a single harmful ingredient in the whole shop. I either make it myself or I know the people personally that make it, and been trying to heal people and do a good job at it.
It's awesome to be able to come all the way up here in Wisconsin and see what he's got going on in person.
Essential oils, and especially my CBD rub, that's what started everything. That's what I said. I do start to finish everything and make it with love. And I put a prayer on the top of it, make sure it's blessed and everything, and people seem to allegedly take their pain away with it.
That's awesome. You got like a coffee shop in here.
Yeah,
What do they
there's a
got going?
lounge that we can
Place
drink.
to hang out.
Yep, drink CBD drinks and relax in a place that doesn't have alcohol. That there's a lot of bars in the area here and people drinking alcohol all the time, so we wanted to make an apothecary and a lounge where people could come in and drink CBD drinks and not have to have and still have a social, good interaction without the alcohol.
That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Right on.
Would you like to have a drink with us?
Let's go get one of JJ's special drinks.
Hey, welcome to JJ's. We have the best small batch kombucha, lemonade, or apple cider drinks that we mix with our CBD. We have water soluble drinks where you can have a drink and not have to have alcohol in it and have a good time. Have a nice social time, that's for sure.
Now, guys, go visit JJ Shop if you're up here in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin.
Health advocacy line that have a specialist here at 920-219-9169. You guys want to call, we can address your ailments and I can recommend things to help you out. And that would be great. Look forward to hearing from you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, he had our sticker right there, man. It was so cool getting to hang out with JJ, and since I had made all that trip up there to Wisconsin, I couldn't help but to swing through and visit his shop there. So if you guys are in the area, hit up JJ. He's got some great products, and I know he's helped a lot of loved ones. So Jeremiah, what do you think, man?
You can also get his products by visiting jjcbdrub.com if you're not in the area. So I just wanted to add that because you can get it online or in person, and meeting him is probably pretty special. Because I met him at the Bertaria Times for the first time, and it felt like I had known him like a long time.
We're excited to support people that are doing good, positive things in the world, so.
Yep. All right, man. Well, you got some good current news for me today?
Yeah, we got some crazy stuff to talk about this week.
Let's go.
The merchants of the earth are striking across the coasts of North America? What? Or the fact that World War III is very likely kicking off as Iran, Israel, Lebanon, Gaza all are engaging in intercontinental reminiscent of Ukraine and Russia politics. We also have the concept that there are some wild world disasters happening, world scale, legendary scale disasters happening in North Carolina and in Florida due to this recent hurricane. So we're going to be covering it all. Let's start off with this video here, which is about dock workers going on strike, affecting your supply from the other side. Check this out.
Thousands of port workers are on strike all across the country tonight. Uncertainty over the country's supply lines has a lot of people in the Mid-South headed to the store to stock up, too.
Fox 13's Jack Billieu joins us live at the Sam's Club on Covington Pike. Jack, there was a whole lot of what many people are calling panic buying that was happening.
Yeah, Darcy, we saw countless people walking through the parking lots with their carts piled up with paper towels, toilet paper, and cleaning supplies, and we kept asking them why they had so much. Over and over again, they blamed that strike. Now take a look at the situation inside the store. Every checkout lane was open and packed, and there was a line that went deep into the store. Again, this wasn't a weekend shopping rush. This was tonight, just before 5. One shopper described it as mayhem.
It's mayhem. As soon as a pallet is dropped of paper towels or a tissue, it's gone. I mean, there were people lined up for the guy to drop the pallets. I mean, I've never seen anything like that before.
Now, it's worth noting that we went to several stores around the Mid-South this afternoon. Almost all of them were well stocked, many even after that panic buying rush this evening. So if you get out to the store, only get what you need. You know, we're not being affected by the impacts of that strike just yet. Now, we're putting together more on that situation for tonight at 10.
That is Fox 13's Jack Bill, you reporting live tonight. Thank you so much, Jack.
So, if you haven't got the word yet, please go and panic buy your toilet paper right now. Buy your toilet paper right now.
And they make preppers seem crazy too. It's kind of, it's like we prep, but then when the time comes, you're trying to get your toilet paper and bring it home. You know, it's so crazy.
If the world ends, I need to wipe my own butt.
Yeah.
With toilet paper.
Yeah.
That, you know what's even funnier about this whole thing is Europeans don't use the same type of commodities that we do.
Well, we have bidets.
Commodities. So yeah, they're probably looking at Americans like, why are you buying cheap, useless tissue paper for your noses? What do you need that paper for?
I need to wipe my ass.
Just say it. Just say it as it is.
It's paper.
Okay. Anyways, with a huge story, let's go to the next video here. Okay, so the Bank of America is doomed, or no, it's just the Bank of America is down. Widespread outages and accounts are frozen and showing zero balance. So we're having widespread financial collapse as well as store rushing. So all great signs of a good time. Check this out.
Dabu 7, we have widespread reports now of Bank of America being down. People are having trouble accessing their bank accounts. If they do get in, they're seeing a bunch of zeros. Everything's zeroed out. They cannot access their money. Some people starting to freak out with everything going on, with people rushing out to clear the shelves to get supplies and all this other stuff. Now the bank's starting to freeze up, so to speak. This isn't the first bank to do this. And they did not immediately respond with a comment when they were asked, how long should people expect to see this go on for? But some people saying, I've got over $20,000 in an account here, and it's showing all zero balances, just freaking people out. And why wouldn't it when you've got everything you've worked for and earned in a bank, and this happens? I expect more of this, and I've been warning people that something of this magnitude is going to happen large scale. It's going to involve more than just one bank. It's going to be across the board. And this is what they're going to use to usher in their CBDC. There's also reports now of T-Mobile spiking. It was just the Verizon situation the other day. Let's not forget the big IT glitch that took everything down not too long ago as well. This thing is well primed for a big event. I think all of you know it. So just buckle up, be prepared. This is the latest. I'll update on X or on Twitter as I come across more.
Folks,
if you're
NATO
experiencing
is
any troubles out
preparing
there,
for a large-scale war right now.
Okay, so great update there by Dabu. Thank you, brother, for your good work over the years. And when I look at that, we see financial red flags going out across many sectors, crypto included. But with this said, let's look on another front. We're kind of hitting several trifectas in today's episode. NATO is preparing for a large-scale war, and Israel begins Lebanon raids. Check this out.
And part of the preparations include for the transportation of wounded troops. Now, as this happens, Ukraine is now warning that Russia may strike its nuclear power plants. If they did that, That is like what would have happened had they not dealt with the Chernobyl scenario. That would impact large parts of Europe. And at the same time, Israel has now begun its ground operations into Lebanon. This has now started, and they're also making threats now against Iran, specifically about a regime change, overthrowing the leaders of Iran. Now, first off, I want to talk about NATO. Reuters said this. They said NATO plans to coordinate the transport of a large number of wounded troops away from front lines in case of a war with Russia, potentially via hospital trains, as air evacuations may not be feasible, according to a senior general. It says the future scenario for medical evacuations will differ from allies' experience in Afghanistan and Iraq. Lieutenant General Alexander Saul Frank, the head of NATO's logistics command, told Reuters in an interview, and it notes that in a conflict with Russia, Western militaries would likely be faced with a much larger war zone, a higher number of injured troops, and at least a temporary lack of air superiority close to the front lines, the German general said. Now, if you watch the war between Russia and Ukraine right now, you might notice something's missing. Well, medevac. You don't really see people getting, flown out on helicopters when they get injured. A lot of that is being done through ground transportation. On the Russian side, maybe not as much. And I would presume that this is why the death toll is probably a lot higher than maybe they're telling us. Given that situation, of course, were the U.S. to get involved in a war there, were NATO to get involved in a war there, we would need to have ways to get wounded troops off the field. And so they're looking now at different ways to do that. They're saying they can't necessarily use helicopters like we did in Vietnam and Afghanistan and Iraq. And so what they're doing instead is looking at ways to transport them on the ground. They said at least temporarily we would not have quote-unquote air superiority, meaning that if the United States or NATO overall were to go to war with Russia, they also, in Russia, have pretty good air superiority. And so there would have to be a battle there first before that would be opened up. Now, look, it is possible the war could end before that, right? We don't really know. The wild card with that conflict is that former President Donald Trump, well, he's been saying that if he wins, he wants to bring a rapid end to the war. That's complicated because there's a lot of people who don't want that. And they don't want it because, well, the ambitions of Russia, linked in with the Chinese Communist Party, linked in with Iran and others, is to control the Eurasian region. Their ambitions very likely will not change. And at the same time, too, the other side of the negotiation is not Russia. The other side of the negotiation is China. But look, on the other side of this whole thing, the conflict can't be viewed as being separate from the other global conflicts happening right now. It's all kind of melded together. There's a singular main agenda behind it, and then you have smaller conflicts starting as a part of that. This includes notably the brewing wars in the Middle East and also with the broader ambitions of the Chinese Communist Party. Again, the Arctic, the South China Sea, the East China Sea, Taiwan, and again, the broader Eurasian region. We've mentioned before the Chinese ambition to create what they call the Eurasian Empire. They want to control that region. Now, on this note, the issue of Europe and the threats against NATO, there's actually a much bigger threat right now hanging over basically all of Europe. This is especially on the nuclear front. You might have seen the ongoing nuclear threats. Well, there's something else to this. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Russia is making plans to attack Ukraine's nuclear power plants. Now, he made this statement during a speech to world leaders at the United Nations General Assembly last week. Watch this.
Recently, I received yet another alarming report from our intelligence. Now, Putin does seem to be planning attacks on our nuclear power plants and their infrastructure, aiming to disconnect the plants from the power grid. With the help of satellites, any missile or drone strike, any critical incident in the energy system could lead to a nuclear disaster. A day like that must never come. If, God forbid, Russia causes a nuclear disaster at one of our nuclear power plants, radiation will not respect state borders. And unfortunately,
Okay, so I'm cutting it short there because we covered several elements that I wanted to make sure you guys caught. One, the the issues with flying evacuees in and out of war zones reminds me of a very interesting situation we're having here in North America, in North Carolina, with people being stranded, and some of the interesting stories coming out of that area regarding FEMA and regarding who's allowed to fly, who's allowed to distribute and help, who's locking down the area. We have some very important news regarding Georgia and a chemical outbreak. Check this video out.
Our lives over here in Atlanta, or more specifically, just a stone's throw away in Conyers. It's currently Wednesday when I'm recording this, but on Sunday morning,
Look at that,
a company
guys.
named BioLab, who makes pool
not
chemicals.
good.
According
Not
to
good
the
at all.
official story, around 5 a.m., the sprinklers started malfunctioning. And unfortunately for everyone, BioLab makes water-reactive chemicals, causing a huge chemical explosion, and it's been smoldering ever since, coating the sky in haze and filling the air with the aroma of chlorine, creating this big toxic cloud darkening the sky. And I don't know about you, but to me, this story is sketchy at best. Not all these details are checking out, and honestly, there's a shortage of details on this story. A lot of y'all on this
Like a
channel are from
multicolored
Georgia,
rainbow.
myself included. But my house is
They
about
have to make
40
sure
to
they
50 miles
cover all
away
the
from
pride.
Conyers, where BioLab is located. I want to know what you're experiencing, what the sky has looked like near you for the last few days, what it smells like, how you're feeling. Initially, 17,000 residents were evacuated, and they issued shelter-in-place orders for over 90,000 residents of Rockdale County due to concerns over air quality, particularly the presence of chlorine gas, which I, of course, haven't seen news stations point this out, but it's very important. During World War I, chlorine gas was used as a chemical weapon by the Germans. And what happens is when it's inhaled, it reacts with your mucus, and it can lead to choking and death. So imagine if you're inhaling that chemical cloud even a little, it's probably very irritating and can cause you harm, because it's basically similar to the kinds of chemical weapons that were banned by the Chemical Weapons Convention and the Geneva Protocol of 1925. And I just want to state the obvious here. Let's say this was done on purpose. Chlorine gas explosion released on a very populated area, that would be considered a weapon of mass destruction, an act of war. I also just want to say that the messaging around this disaster and these emergency notifications have been so confusing. They told everyone in the affected area to shelter in place, but the last thing you want to do when you're being gassed is shelter in place. It doesn't matter if you have the windows closed on your house, even though that's what Rockdale County government advised. Sheltering in place, remaining indoors, and keeping windows closed to minimize the exposure. Like I told y'all in my last video, on Monday, me and my grandparents were just sitting around chatting, and our emergency alerts all went off on our phones, and it was really eerie. The wording of the alert was very strange, saying that the EPA is monitoring the air for these toxins, and that the chemical levels are unlikely to cause harm to most people. For the past few days, the cloud of toxic fumes has blown over from Conyers, I told you I'm 50 miles away from this, into nearby counties like Gwinnett and even Cobb County, which is where my husband works, and he said it smelled like chlorine outside yesterday and it was hazy. As of today, the BioLab facility is still smoldering and there's widespread haze everywhere. Reported today, the whole EPA monitoring has detected hydrochloric acid in some of the samples that they're gathering, which people are breathing in, and like I said, when inhaled, it can result in upper respiratory tract irritation, spasms, and if you got a direct hit of it, enough exposure, which I'm not saying is happening in this instance, but if you got enough of it, it would kill you. The first alert I received was 3 p.m. on Monday, and on Tuesday at 1:47 a.m., I received another one of these blaring alerts saying the exact same thing. Unlikely to harm most people, that our house is falling under the affected radius. And they texted me at 2 a.m. to say this. Wake us all up just to tell us nothing. That's like psychological warfare. It's really, really strange. Apparently, there have been several incidents over the years at this lab. The fire, which is BioLab's third significant incident over the past 20 years, comes at a time when part of Georgia has been totally devastated from this hurricane. Like, there are a bunch of people without power, cell phone service, having to boil water, all these things in one part of the state. And now we have this disaster close to Atlanta as well. Thank you to Melissa from True Stream Media who sent me this article from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution dated 2004. The title of the article is Fire Checks Left Up to the Industry, BioLab Workers, Not State Licensed Inspector Examined Sprinklers. Quote from 2004, last month's blaze sent a plume of noxious smoke billowing for miles across East Metro Atlanta. No one died in this whole 2-day ordeal, but it prompted the evacuation of thousands of residents and shut down local businesses. Chlorine-saturated water from the fire hoses contaminated a lake, end quote. So 20 years ago, this exact same thing happened, but on a lesser scale. They were able to salvage a bunch of chemicals and some of the warehouse in this instance. But basically, the article says there's little to no oversight or inspections, and this company, which has all these toxic chemicals, are just willy-nilly doing whatever out there with their proven pattern of negligence, which is actually in line with some of the Google reviews of the company from their former workers. Here's a review from 5 years ago. Horrible management, rude supervisors, very unprofessional workplace environment. Should be shut down. If a fire marshal comes strolling down and does a check, this place would probably be shut down, end quote. And you know what? Once, I'll give it to you, once is an accident. You can't attach malice to an isolated incident which could be attributed to negligence. Twice, you definitely probably should have been shut down. 3 times? I don't know, seems purposeful, seems intentional. Seems like we're not getting the entire story. Also, we're not being told the full list of chemicals that were stored at biolabs. We're having all these articles come out now saying that the EPA is detecting chlorine levels exceeding the action level around the facility. But they don't really explain what that means. I think that means don't breathe the air around Conyers. There's now a class action lawsuit you can join. While there's been no reported deaths from this incident, people are posting on social media that their throats hurt.
Okay, so just want to point out the interesting events that are poisoning the skies and water, as well as the terrible national tragedies that are going on over in North Carolina. Here's one last video about we really are nearing the end. Check this out. This is a Jason A. clip titled "The End." The end times have begun. So check this one out.
The minister came here today and said that Israel is surrounded by those who want to destroy it, an enemy. We're here, members of a Muslim Arab committee mandated by 57 Arab and Muslim countries, and I can tell you here very unequivocally, all of us are willing to right now guarantee the security of Israel in the context of Israel ending the occupation and allowing for the emergence of a Palestinian state, independent state. He is creating that danger because he simply does not want the two-state solution. And if he does not want the two-state solution, can you ask the Israeli officials, what is their end game? Other than just wars and wars and wars. I'm telling you, all of us in the Arab world here, we want a peace in which Israel lives in peace and security, accepted, normalized with all Arab countries.
If he's right that the Arab countries around Israel do want stability, do want peace, all they're asking for is a Palestinian state, why would Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu not take that?
But just this last week, the United Nations General Assembly votes to remove the Jews from the occupied territories, including the city of Jerusalem. They give them 1 year to move. And it wasn't even a close vote. There was 145 nations that voted for it. There were 43, including the U.S., which decided just not to vote. And I just thought, what's really going on?
Israel says a response is coming, but Iran warns it's ready to attack again if provoked.
The missile attack comes as Iran-backed Hezbollah launched more than 100 rockets into Israel today, while the Israelis continued to target the Lebanese capital of Beirut with airstrikes. We're also following that other security incident out of Tel Aviv yesterday. 7 people killed in a shooting there, and the police say that these attackers came from the West Bank. Clearly, many fronts at the same time, quite active for the Israelis.
It's really a fulfillment of what the prophet Zechariah and others said when he wrote, he says, on that day when all the nations are gathered against her, I will make Jerusalem an immovable rock for all the nations, and all who try to move it will injure themselves.
Iran, you said, and I thought that was interesting, Marie, that they're embarrassed right now. The only person that they managed to kill with all that targeting was a Palestinian.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Multiple locations in Israel that were hit, among them 2 Israeli air bases, Nevatim and at Tel Nof. Now, these were the images at Nevatim. Visually dramatic, of course, but so far there's no evidence of any actual damage at the air base itself. That's a major propaganda victory for Iran, but in actuality, the damage inflicted is extremely limited.
Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, released a statement saying, based on legitimate rights with the aim of peace and security for Iran and the region, a decisive response was given to the aggressions of the Zionist regime.
Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen have repeatedly attacked Israel with drones and ballistic missiles in solidarity with the people of Gaza. The spontaneous turnout in Yemen, Iran, Lebanon, Iraq, and Palestine may have raised morale in the face of a fearsome enemy, but Israel's aggression continues with the support of a world superpower, and the celebrations are mixed with feelings of uncertainty.
So this puny regime, it is not a state, it is a colony. It is a racist, ethno-supremacist colony which the people call themselves the chosen people. Unlike you, we do not believe in chosen people. And the Palestinian people on that land who've been displaced and pushed into Gaza and who've been slaughtered regularly over 76 years, we will not stand for that. We struck their military targets because unlike you, we actually care about human rights, not you. The regime must go and all people must be treated equally. Right. And if the only thing, there's no doubt that Israel will lose, but the only variable here is the United States. If the United States gets involved, have no doubt, the U.S. will be swept out of Iraq by the Iraqi resistance, and all its assets in the Persian Gulf will be destroyed. All those regimes that U.S. bases will be destroyed, and the oil and gas markets will cause a situation where the global economy will collapse and millions of people will be on the move.
Most dramatically, of course, Israel could target one of Iran's many nuclear facilities. Benjamin Netanyahu has long seen Iran's nuclear program and the possibility of its weaponization as an existential threat to Israel, and he could take this moment to strike. So Israel might choose to calibrate its response and show that it's done so and go no further up this escalatory spiral. But it doesn't seem to be in a mood to do that. And until we know, the Middle East remains on the brink of a much bigger crisis. It's up to Tel Aviv now.
And now we see more concern about what's unfolding in the Middle East. Is President Trump right? Are we on the verge, without strong American leadership, of a catastrophe in the Middle East?
Well, Laura, thanks for having me on. The world is on fire.
We need to open up dialogue and strengthen dialogue and cooperation between states, enabling us to strengthen international peace and security. In this regard, we categorically reject all crimes perpetrated by Israel against the kindred Palestinian people, enabling the Palestinian people to establish an independent state with pre-1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital.
And yet Mark Twain back in 1899 wrote an essay called Concerning the Jews, and I'll just read a few excerpts from it. But he wrote then, he said, properly the Jew ought hardly to be heard of. He said the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Persians, they rose, filled the planet with sound and splendor, and passed away. The Greeks and the Romans followed and made a vast noise, and they are gone. And then he finally said, all things are mortal, but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. And you see, As I've noted so many times in previous teachings, that after 2,000 years, to know that Israel is once again a nation occupying the same spatial territory that their forefathers owned. They're speaking the same language as their forefathers. Well, all of those things and more make it.
To give a sense of the difference, some in Israel are now.
Massive explosion rocked Beirut a short time ago. At this moment, it is not clear what the target was. But even before this blast, Lebanon's government said Israeli airstrikes had killed 46 people just today.
To give a sense of the difference, some in Israel are now arguing they have a great opportunity to use
Look at those
fighter
stars
jets
fall,
and
guys.
hit
Those
the
look like
nuclear
falling
facilities
stars.
that Iran
It's
has.
crazy.
Also important to note overnight, another 7 Israeli soldiers who made the trip over the border to take out those Hezbollah.
Massive explosion rocked Beirut a short time ago. At this moment, it is not clear
Looking at
what the
these
target was.
shoot across the
but even
sky
before this blast, Lebanon's
like
government
something
said
from a
Israeli
movie.
airstrikes had killed 46
Look at
people
this.
just today.
To give a sense of the
Yeah. Look at
difference,
that.
some in Israel are now arguing they have a great opportunity to use fighter jets and hit the nuclear facilities that Iran has. Also important to note overnight, another.
Okay, well, anyways, crazy events happening across the world. That was a Jason A video. Now, for our last clip of the day, check out this insane destruction in North Carolina. Many people are still fighting for their lives as we speak. Check this video out.
Wiped off the map, cutting off entire communities where a bird's eye view of western North Carolina looks like this. Dotted with roads wiped off the map, cutting off entire communities where Helene's torrential flooding changed lives overnight.
It floated everything inside the house. It even floated a double-door refrigerator and flipped it on its side.
John Norwood and his fiancee sought shelter at a friend's house when Helene arrived. A mudslide took out the home.
We looked outside and there was a 30-foot tall wall of water and rocks and tree debris just coming at us.
First responders pulled him over the floodwaters to safety. His fiancee, Julie LaRue, is still missing.
I crawled around screaming, looking for her, and I just couldn't find her.
She's among the hundreds of people unaccounted for. With power and cell service cut off in swaths, some are resorting to communicating via whiteboard and marker, names of those missing and updates when they're found. Thousands of National Guard members, volunteers, and FEMA are bringing food and supplies to those with no way out. While surveying storm damage in Georgia, former President Trump falsely claimed officials there had a hard time getting President Biden on the phone.
Let me get this straight. He's lying. And the governor told him he was lying.
He just said, hey, what do you need? And I told him, you know, we got what we need. We'll work through the federal process. He offered that if there's other things we need, just to call him directly, which I appreciate that.
President Biden says he plans to visit the region tomorrow. Rebuilding it is expected to take at least months.
And it's hard to think that a mile that way and a mile that way, it's all gone. But at least we have this. We can rebuild from here.
Vice President Harris says she plans to be on the ground in the affected areas as soon as possible without disrupting emergency responders. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
Anyways, yeah, man, so I can sympathize because I also went through a flood at one point several years ago at Roaring River Park. Anyways, that's all the news for this week, Jeremiah. Hope you enjoyed.
All right, thanks, Jake, for another great current news as always. And now a quick look at the Babylon Rising bookstore.
Check out our new and improved BabylonRisingBooks.com, where you can get Rob Skiba's books, bundles, DVDs, DVD-ROMs, videos, and so much more. You can even get Sheila and Jeremiah's books, so check it out now.
It's about that time for an all-new Opa's Corner. Take it away, Opa.
I think we're going to do something a little different today for Opa's Corner. I thought we'd make this episode a little more interesting. There's one, believe it or not, item that is false. And the first person to identify that false item will receive an Opa's Corner t-shirt.
Ooh.
So there's your t-shirt.
Now,
And-
if I find it, can I win it?
No, unfortunately, Kingsgate Media employees are ineligible.
Okay.
I have in my hand an envelope with the answer. A child of 4 can plainly see this envelope has been hermetically sealed and has been kept in a mayonnaise jar on Funkin' Wagnall's porch since noon today. No one knows the contents of this envelope except for me. So now, let's go to an OPA'S Corner.
Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat nicht 3 Ecken, dann ist es nicht mein Hut.
The strange, the bizarre, the unexpected. These are the kinds of subjects a man named Robert L. Ripley challenged us to believe it or not.
Believe it or not, you.
Wally, believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
Believe it!
You're a loony.
A recent study found cats enjoy being around humans who tolerate them more than those who act overly affectionate. Believe it or not. Mummies were buried with their underwear. Believe it or not. A restaurant in Chicago, Illinois, served an edible, transparent, helium-filled balloon for dessert, using a green apple taffy base inflated with helium. Believe it or not. Many may think the Seattle Seahawks are named after a genuine bird of sea, but there's actually no bird with the official name Seahawk. Believe it or not. In 2024, the City Museum of St. Louis, Missouri, gathered 355 people to simultaneously wear underwear on their heads. Believe it or not. Animators hand drew more than 1 million bubbles for The Little Mermaid. Believe it or not. There's a place in Chile called LOLOL. LOL. Believe it or not. In 1860, the Brooklyn Excelsiors became the first baseball team to wear a recognizable version of the modern baseball cap. Believe it or not. From 1981 to 1987, more people were bitten each year by New Yorkers than by sharks. Believe it or not. In 1998, students hacked the MIT website to say that Disney had bought the school for $6.9 billion as an April Fool's prank. Believe it or not. The butterfly was originally called a flutterby. Believe it or not. Corrective eyeglasses were first made and used in the 13th century by Italian monks. Believe it or not. Near the full-sized Washington Monument, a secret 12-foot-tall replica sits hidden in a manhole. Believe it or not. In 2023, the Ring Camera Company offered a $1 million grand prize to the individual who captured the most compelling alien activity on the doorbell device. Believe it or not. The Loch Ness Monster contributes approximately $54 million to the Scottish economy annually. Believe it or not. American author Nathaniel West's 1939 novel, The Day of the Locust, features a character named Homer Simpson. Believe it or not. People born in December are more likely to live past 100 years of age. Believe it or not. Researchers found that if you make your bed each morning, you are 206% more likely to become a millionaire. Believe it or not. Director Tim Burton had 40 squirrels trained to crack nuts for the conveyor belt scene in his 2005 film Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Believe it or not. Bigfoot was investigated by the FBI. Believe it or not. Owls haven't a neck, do they? An owl is essentially a one-piece unit. All right, folks, a giant fly is attacking the police station. I've called in the SWAT team. I used to think I was indecisive, but now I'm not so sure. Light travels faster than sound, which is the reason that some people appear bright before you hear them speak. If a parsley farmer gets sued, can they garnish his wages? I just got kicked out of a secret cooking society. I spilled the beans. What if there were no hypothetical questions? The world champion tongue twister got arrested. I've heard that they're going to give him a tough sentence. A Mexican magician tells the audience he will disappear on the count of 3. He says, uno, dos, and poof, he disappears without a trace. The first time I got a universal remote control, I thought to myself, this changes everything. My teachers told me I'd never amount to much because I procrastinate so much. I told them, just you wait. I put my grandma on speed dial the other day. I call it Instagram. I bought some batteries, but they weren't included. If a word in the dictionary was misspelled, how would we know?
True.
The ice cream truck in my neighborhood plays Helter Skelter.
Yeah. Helter Skelter.
My grandmother is so insane. She got pierced hearing aids. My brother was a clown for the Ringling Brothers Circus. When he died, all his friends went to the funeral in one car. Talk is cheap until you hire a lawyer. Take my advice. I'm not using it. A dog has an owner. A cat has a staff. Particle collider. You'll have to install tiny airbags on your particles. Sorry, but it's the law. When I was your age, we could beam ourselves on joyrides all around the universe. We had to sneak out in our parents' spaceships and go to little planets like Earth and pull pranks by making pyramids and crop circles. I child-proof the whole house. How do you like it? I don't know what happened, Your Holiness. I painted the entire ceiling. Did you remember to hit save? Oh, thank God I'm awake. I dreamt they gave me a treat if I pass a test. But I didn't study, and I couldn't remember how to sit. You're getting too big for your dang britches. Oh, yeah? Well, you're all hat and no kettle. Her Majesty says she liked the mound better where you built it the first time. I, Bob, take you, gosh, I'm terrible with names. I think it starts with a J. Joan? Jane? Jill? You don't look like a Jill. How about Jan? Big bowling ball is watching you. Midhaven High School after the banning of cell phones. They had snacks, so I gave them everything. You threw up on the tile instead of the carpet. And you thought I forgot your birthday. How drumming has progressed through the ages. Stone Age. Ice Age. Middle Ages. modern age.
John Bonham.
When I learned you are what you eat, I realized I was nuts. Geezer Glen Retirement Village. That's not what I meant when I suggested rocking on the porch, Mr. Clapwell. Locke, Hurley, and Sawyer stumbled upon another abandoned campsite and made a horrible discovery. SS Minnow. Powered by eco-friendly biofuel. The most embarrassing day in the history of the Swiss Army. So, we got food, no spoons, cans, no opener, wood, no saws, and I need a toothpick. Is that right, soldier? I'm with the IRS. Have you got a few minutes? I'm ready for the apple now, son. I got all the bad shots out of my system. Let's take a break to stretch our legs, get a cup of coffee, or knock all the pins off the table. Yes. Oh, brother, not hamsters again. Excuse me, I ordered a dozen bees, but you gave me 13. That's a freebie. Just when I think I'm done, I rotate it and find another spot that I missed. Weather forecasts in biblical times. A warm front of biblical proportions will collide with a cold front of biblical proportions, causing a storm of biblical proportions. Take me to your bathroom. A squirrel? Impressive. I'm still chasing a stick. So, you found guilty. You get jail time? No, me just wear ankle monitor. He followed me home. Can I keep him? It's a shame nothing is built in the USA anymore. I just bought a TV, and it said, built-in antenna. I don't even know where that is. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill.
It's a nail. That's a hammer.
If Cinderella's shoe fits so perfectly, why did it fall off in the first place?
That's a good point.
And that concludes another OPA'S Corner.
Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat nicht 3 Ecken, dann ist es nicht mein Hut.
OPA'S Corner is now available on my own YouTube channel. Like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you, Opa, for another great OPA'S Corner.
Okay, now everybody remember, the first person who finds the, believe it or not, item that is incorrect will win an OPA'S Corner t-shirt.
And leave it in the comment section below, and whoever's first, win that t-shirt. It's time for History's Mysteries, but it's brought to you by our brand new sponsor, so check this out. Unleash your confidence with Brighter Image Lab. Growing up, I was always self-conscious about my smile, especially the gap between my teeth. It didn't just impact my childhood, it followed me into adulthood, affecting my confidence every time I smiled. When I started Skiba News Nation, I knew it was time to make a change. That's when I discovered Brighter Image Lab, and they truly transformed my confidence and my smile. Their veneers gave me the confidence I had been missing for all those years, and I want to share the same feeling with all of you. I believe in their products so much that I reached out to partner with them after I got my first pair, so that you could experience the same life-changing results. If you've ever felt insecure about your smile, like I have, now's your moment. These veneers are a game changer, and you can get 20% off with my code SKIBA20 at checkout. Or you can click the link below and start your journey to a more confident you. So check out Brighter Image Lab today. Your perfect smile is just one click away. Alright, it's time for a History's Mysteries. So today for History's Mysteries, we're going to be diving into a strange and mysterious death of Bobby Fuller. Now, if you don't know who Bobby Fuller is, he was a rock singer, songwriter, guitarist, and is most famous for performing I Fought the Law when the Law won. Right, Opa?
Yep.
So we're also going to be talking about the death clause and how the music industry is tied in with the mob. And it's a very big problem, and it's always been a big problem. So let's go ahead and play this first clip so you get a better understanding of what I'm talking about.
Bobby Fuller. After Fuller moved to LA in 1964, he was signed to a record label by the name of Del-Fi Records, owned by producer Bob Keane. Keane was also the band's manager, and given the fact that it was called the Bobby Fuller 4, Bobby was the frontman. Shortly after the band had scored several hits, like their cover of I Fought the Law, on July 18, 1966, Bobby's success in the music industry would be cut short. After receiving a mysterious phone call in the early hours of the morning, Bobby was believed to have left his Los Angeles apartment at 3 a.m. Before Bobby left, his road manager had been half asleep watching TV in the living room. He vaguely remembered that Bobby might have been going to see a girl named Melody that night. After heading out from the apartment, he took his mother's Oldsmobile, and he would set off into the night. As the day turned to morning, Bobby failed to meet up with the other members of his band for rehearsal later that day. Around 5 p.m., a couple other visiting musicians had come to see Bobby at his apartment. They claimed that when they were driving up, Bobby's mother's car was not there. Bobby's mother, Lorraine, also noted this. She had been keeping an eye out all day for Bobby to come home. After the two visitors came into Bobby's apartment, Bobby's mom then went to go get the mail. To her surprise, the car was there. Upon closer inspection, she found Bobby lifeless inside of the car. He was found lying across the seat, where the entire car reeked of the smell of gasoline. There was a 2.5-gallon gas can found below the driver's seat, and a gas hose was also found nearby. Upon discovering Bobby in this state, Lorraine called the police. And when they arrived, they took a quick look at the body, and they ruled that Bobby had taken his own life from drinking gasoline. The authorities quickly discarded the gas can and called it a day. The car was never dusted for prints, the police didn't interview anybody, and all in all, it was an open and shut case. Later, it would be revealed through the autopsy that there was no gasoline found in Bobby's stomach. where the coroner later stated that Bobby had died due to inhalation of gasoline fumes, classifying Bobby's death instead as an accident, a finding that nobody, not least his own mother and family, agreed. Multiple witnesses noted that it appeared that Bobby had been beaten up badly and had a broken finger. There was blood found on his shirt and face. Multiple witnesses, including Lorraine, also made the comment that it looked like he had been dragged on the ground, and his body showed various scrapes and injuries. The coroner claims that they were mistaken. He claimed he found no bruises, no broken bones, and no cuts, or evidence of a beating. Instead stating, "Body in full rigor, skin slip due to high temperature in car." Bobby's body had been found in a full state of rigor mortis, meaning that he had been dead for some time. Considering that the car hadn't been in the lot for more than 15 minutes, this quite literally made it impossible that he could have driven up on his own. And given the sheer amount of gasoline found in the car, it appeared that someone had been just moments away from setting it ablaze. According to an article from Spin magazine, in 1983, Rick Stone reported that he was sure Bobby's head had been doused with gasoline. To this day, Jim Reese maintains that he saw a half-burned book of matches and a burn on the vinyl of the backseat of the car. Assuming the car failed to light, this meant that the persons responsible were lurking nearby. Rather interesting when you factor in that Bob Keane had just so happened to magically appear at the scene within moments.
Because the investigators smelled gas, they assumed that he sewer slided himself with gasoline. Now, there was a gas can in the back of the car and matches. I mean, it doesn't make any sense of it being for investigators just to go there and not dust for prints or nothing. I mean, that screams red flag, and they didn't do anything. So, in my opinion, they were paid off. So was the coroner, even though the coroner said something different. It just so many different answers for why this happened. So let's go ahead and play this next clip.
Where there's smoke, there's usually fire. So were there any ties to organized crime? Many sources on this subject bring up the silent partner in Bob Keane's business, a man by the name of Larry Nunes. Larry Nunes was essentially the man financing Fuller's career, and Nunes was the actual beneficiary who was set to cash in on Fuller's death. Now the key word here is silent partner. Organized crime is notorious for using frontmen for almost all of their business dealings, and to quote the Chicago Tribune, as the schemes got more complicated, mobsters needed the help of lawyers, politicians, and frontmen with relatively clean criminal records. It was a Faustian bargain. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the term Faustian bargain, it essentially means a deal with the devil. Throughout history, there have been a number of Faustian bargains, but in present day, you'll notice that almost every person who claims this comes from the entertainment industry.
You're still out here doing these songs, you know, you're still on tour.
I do, but I don't take it for granted.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I mean, I made a bargain with it, you know, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my hand.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And this earth, and then in a world we can't see.
Bob Dylan has quite literally been playing a never-ending tour since 1988, adhering to a heavy booking schedule of 100 shows a year. He crossed 3,000 shows in 2019, and despite him being 80 years old, his vocal performances becoming unpredictable, and him randomly changing the lyrics of his songs on a night-by-night basis to the point that they become unrecognizable, he's still touring. It sort of makes you wonder if there's something preventing him from retiring, especially given the fact that the overarching data on this industry shows that most musicians don't live to the age of retirement. But all you need to know for now is the fact that at least one of these interpretations includes making a deal with the underworld.
Is that not crazy? Making a deal with the underworld. Now, what was Bob Dylan talking about the devil, or was he talking about the music industry being like the devil? We don't know. But maybe this next clip will help us understand a little bit more. So check this out.
Bob had claimed he'd partnered with Nunes in 1964 when he needed money, and he wrote in his autobiography, "I had wondered if I had made a deal with the devil. I had heard that Larry had a reputation for being associated with the mob, and as it turned out 3 years later, a relationship ended in deception, dishonesty, and murder. I consider myself to be very lucky to have come out of that relationship with Nunes in one piece, virtually unscathed. After Fuller's passing in 1967, Delphi had been dissolved and Bob Keane had moved on. But it's worth noting just how bad Keane had gotten burned within his relationship with not just Nunes, but also his previous financier. Before Delphi existed, there was a company called Keane Records, spelled K-E-E-N. The story behind this goes, Bob Keane was playing clarinet in several bars and clubs around Los Angeles, and one evening he met businessman John Simus, who persuaded Bob to set up a record label with him. Under this position, Keane would go on to manage Sam Cooke for 3 years, who, I should add, he also passed away under disputed circumstances as well. But soon after working with Keane, Sam Cooke came out with a record that included Summertime, and on the other side it had You Send Me. You Send Me ended up reaching the #1 on the charts after it took off in 1957. At this point, despite Keane Records having earned over $1 million from sales from You Send Me, Bob apparently only had an oral contract with Simus. Eventually, Keane was cut out of the picture and he was duped and received nothing and was left out in the dust. Hereafter, Keane would go on to found Delphi. Keane basically had an open-door policy for musicians to audition for him. One of the more known was Richie Valens, who after seeing short-lived success, passed away along with Buddy Holly and J.P. Richardson, and pilot Roger Peterson for reasons unknown in a plane crash after failing a takeoff. Now, as a result, Keane ended up owning Valens' legacy via his masters. However, afterwards, Keane moved on from the music business after losing basically his entire career. Now, with Keane's story out of the way, let's discuss Mr. Larry Nunes. He was a cutout distributor who worked with two companies. One was MCA, and the other one was Roulette Records. If you recall that mysterious phone call in the middle of the night, where the road manager claimed that Bobby was going to see a girl named Melody, Larry Nunes employed Melody, and by all accounts, Melody was a lady of the night.
My relationship with Bobby primarily was to watch him and talk to him. I was like the go-between to talk to Bobby and see what was on his mind, what bothered him and stuff like that.
While Melody later claimed that Nunes was not mobbed up, it's also worth pointing out that Larry Nunes had signed an exclusive distribution deal with Roulette Records. That distribution deal was for the Bobby Fuller 4's last single, The Magic Touch. So following the money here, it takes us back to Roulette Records, owned by a man by the name of Morris Levy.
So you may be asking yourself, why does the mob have ties in everything? And they just do. They have so much power, even back then. Right?
Why does the mob have their fingers in every aspect of money-generating, laundering businesses that happen to exist? And nobody knows.
Who knows? But maybe this next clip will tell you why. So check this out.
Program NBC investigative reporter Brian Ross has detailed several links between the mob and the songs that make the charts. And tonight, Ross has more.
This is the man federal authorities describe as the godfather of the American music business, Morris Levy, in the custody of FBI agents after his arrest just after 7 this morning at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Boston. Levy, the president of Roulette Records, is little known outside the music business, but federal authorities say Levy is as powerful as any big record company president, using his ties with organized crime to control record companies, record stores, and big-name performers.
It goes without saying that the circumstances surrounding Bobby Fuller's passing are very questionable. But it's worth pointing out that had things gone a bit differently with Bobby Fuller's mother not keeping an eye out that entire day, then it would be much harder to argue the mysterious circumstances surrounding his death.
Shout out to all the great moms out there. So, yeah, what are your thoughts, Opa, about this whole case? I mean, do you think it was an accident or a sewer slide attempt?
Nope, I don't think it was an accident or a suicide attempt.
And what do you think about it, Jake? Just the whole story.
No, not an accident or a suicide attempt. I think there's more to meets the eye with this one.
Well, and like, the mob does have his fingers in everything, like you said, and it's insane because that's why we, people like me and you, can't sign a record label because they control it. They control the whole thing. It's insane. Like, I wouldn't sign a record deal if my life depended on it because of all the things. It's in the fine print. And that dude with the mob was the full beneficiary to everything Bobby Fuller left when he died. So it conveniently happened, and everybody was paid off, and that's what I think.
I can
Follow the money. Yep.
I can attest to the fact that Certified Nation Records, that has the label Skiba, is not mob related.
Or is it? All right, well, that's all I got for History's Mysteries. I think we have one more ad. I want to introduce you guys to somebody named Kristen, who's one of the biggest forces behind Skiba News Nation. This is Kristen. She's probably the biggest help on Skiba News Nation that we have behind the scenes. She helps us get all the big guests. I understand that you're doing this full time now, so how can people find out how to use your service?
Well, I started Fellow Helper Agency, and you can go to fellowhelperagency.com. And I do any of the behind the scenes, email, getting the interviews, and I do prep work for the shows as well. I do timestamps and moderating, and then I've also learned how to do clips and making shorts out of the shows as well. And I was a producer for a documentary recently.
She is the best with connects. If you like any of our shows, any of our big guests, she's the person to go to. And if you have a channel, definitely go to our website.
Yeah, I enjoy what I do. I'm enjoying doing new stuff. I enjoy doing the same stuff I've been doing. I enjoy working for the community and being part of the team.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you.
Thank you for all your help.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
So go check out fellowhelperagency.com. Well, Jake, thank you for another great current news and memes as always. Opa, thank you for another great Opa's Corner. I hope you enjoyed today's History's Mysteries and the episode as a whole. Stay awake, not woke, subscribe, and stay tuned. If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe. And also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Son of the legendary Rob's Jeremiah Skiba.
It's like they don't even want to wake up.